Well, good morning. It was a power-packed day yesterday. We went over the details of the disease, the biology of sickle cell disease during the morning. And then we, in the afternoon, started talking about racism, implicit bias, discrimination, health equity, and how that impacts sickle cell disease. And we ended up having a very tough discussion, delicate discussion, about personal racial attitudes. And I did this last year, and it's been a year since I did it, so I'm going to put Daniel Soph on the spot. You know what I'm going to talk about.
I'm really sure.
Daniel is an African who has come to the United States, but he met somebody. Who'd you meet, Daniel?
I met my wife, Jessica, who's a teacher.
And describe Jessica for the audience.
She's an Italian, red-headed, white girl.
And last year we talked about the fact that you guys were engaged.
Yeah.
And something has happened.
We got married and moved in together.
They had not one but two weddings.
Yeah.
And I missed them both.
Yeah.
I had my African traditional garb ready to go over to Africa and see the wedding there, and I missed that. And then I thought I had COVID, so I missed the U.S. wedding.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I missed both weddings. But they make a beautiful couple, and somehow they moved into a house near me. So I get the feeling we might have dinner.
Yes, very soon.
Okay, great. Well, 55 of you responded to the post-test questions from yesterday. We had a max attendance at our peak of 165 yesterday. There were about 20 questions that we gave during the day, and we recorded responses to those 20 questions. One person gave the correct answer to all, two people gave the correct answer to all 20 questions. So whoever you are, you two, you get an A+. The average response, the average score was about 15.6 out of 20, and the median was 16 out of 20. Here are the places where people had the most trouble getting across the content where that we were trying to get across. We asked the question about what percentage of the disparities in health outcomes are accounted for by health care. Now, the correct answer to that was about 20%. And a lot of you did not think it was that low. You thought it was actually higher. So a lot of you said, no, it's 20 to 30%. And then the most of you actually said it was 30 to 40% or higher. So that seemed to trip people up. So let's talk about that, Daniel. Health care itself can produce health disparities. That is, bad treatment and so forth.
Correct.
But as we have learned, it's the social determinants of health that are the most to blame for the discrepancies in health outcomes. Correct. Tell us about your experiences. You're doing a study now, trying to get people to come in and do a magnetic resonance imaging.
Yeah.
Is the problem that they're not getting good health care and allowing them to come in, or are there other problems like transportation? You tell us.
Yeah, it's actually really everything else besides healthcare. You know, we have patients, once they're in the clinic, they say, yes, I want to participate in this study, but then when you reach back out to them, there's issues with childcare, there's issues with transportations, there's issues with just feeling good on that day and wanting to actually participate. But when you put that aside and you compare it to what the issues is with health disparities, you realize that, you know, besides the care that they're getting, we have to be able to address all these other social determinants of health in order to help them be good or productive members of society or participate in research projects.
And I will tell you, as a healthcare provider myself, I wanted it to be 30, 40, 50%. I wanted to be able to go and just beat on the healthcare system after curing all the problems to access to care, which used to be the thing we beat on. Get people their insurance, get people their transportation, get people into the healthcare system. Everything else will take care of itself. Now we know that it's not simply getting them in there. It's not simply getting doctors to do the right thing for the right person at the right time. That's part of it.
It's part of it.
But now we understand that it's where you live. Those slides from Dr. Stephen Wolf might have been the most impressive slides I saw all day long. Where you live drives how healthy you're going to be, even on the wrong side of the interstate.
Yes.
Remember the slide where the lights were on and the lights were off? It was the poor side of the tracks where the lights were off. And I bet it's that way in Africa too. Tell us about how it works in your native country.
It very much is the same. You know, here in the United States, a lot of the disparities is centered around race. You know, the wider the neighborhood, the more resources are allocated. But in Africa, it's somewhat different. We call it tribalism. It's because of the
So it matters what tribe you came from.
What tribe you came from. And the tribe with the most resources tend to be the tribes that are running the government, per se. So it's somewhat parallel. And you can see the difference where those tribes get the most resources, the most allocations for their sectors within the cities that they live in. And it's night and day. Nice, big, tall building, huts across the street. So,
and I was in South Africa. I saw the same thing.
Very, very similar.
And there, it's white, colored, and black. And those are social terms, and they are economic terms. And the dirt, the roads, and the huts versus the paved roads and the gated communities versus the white mansions.
Correct.
Very, very different. So a way to remember this, here's an easy way to remember this. Wealth begets health. Wealth begets health. If you have the resources and you have the social determinants, you're going to be healthier.
You're going to be healthier.
So that's about that question. Here's another one, very related to the one we just got through talking about. The question was about race, and we asked which of the following is not true. Now the correct answer was this: race is a biological term. Genetics now show strong biological differences between blah, 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 blah. That's wrong. And that was the only statement on that of the four that was wrong. The other three were correct, but a number of you thought this statement was not correct. A number of you thought that health disparities were not disproportionately due to variables other than, and then you could talk about the variables we just got through talking about. So that's a true statement. So go back and look at our lectures, to see. Here's another question that tripped people up. Which of the following is not a criterion for an issue to be considered a public health crisis? Which of the following is not a criterion? The correct answer was, it must have a large direct economic cost. So put another way, even if a disease like sickle cell disease in the large does not have a large economic cost related to, say, cancer or diabetes, it can still be a public health crisis. And sickle cell has been declared, as you will see today, a public health crisis. And we understand that it's a public health crisis because of the other things that could qualify it. It affects large numbers of people, certainly outside the United States. It threatens health over the long term, and it requires the adoption of large-scale solutions. All of those true about sickle cell disease. Okay. Daniel, what were your impressions of yesterday? What stood out to you the most?
A lot of my research is centered around understanding pain and pain in sickle cell disease compared to other conditions. What stood out the most to me were all the other factors that play into patients' experience and essentially how it reflects into pain perception for them, notably the neuropathic aspect of pain and all the other socioeconomic factors that may play into catastrophizing, say, pain experience.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So we talked about, I don't even know if we used the word catastrophizing yesterday. Did we use it at all?
Not as much, maybe once or twice.
We should have.
We should have.
What is catastrophizing, Daniel?
It's making an experience seem a lot worse than what it actually is.
Yeah. So it's the oh my God syndrome.
Yes.
And in the case of a sickle cell crisis, it would be the emotional component. Remember that really complex diagram I showed you that had the blue slide that had all the inputs. The emotional input was the oh my God, I'm having a vaso-occlusive crisis. What do I do now? Why is emotion so bad for your blood vessels and your venues? What does that chemical do when you? You remember this one?
I feel like I remember it. It vasodilates.
Or vasoconstricts. Depending on what the response is. And you don't want vasoconstriction.
No.
Sickle cell disease is a problem. There's a problem with vasoconstriction. So any emotional impact that causes vasoconstriction will do what?
It reduces the size of the vessel.
And therefore blood flow, which is what you study.
Which is what I'm studying,
So we are interested in people not having that oh my God moment. We're interested in that. And so that was an important thing to talk about. So catastrophizing, that's actually been studied. We published.
We published about it.
On catastrophizing. I'll tell you what stood out to me. I think those slides about the lived experience and enrichment in particular.
Enrichment, Dr. Wolf's presentation.
Dr. Wolf's presentation. I think that really stood out to me. It gave me a new appreciation and a new dedication to trying to do something about social determinants of health. I did not come into medicine having that model.
Health equity.
I didn't come in having a health equity model. I came in having a biological model. And sickle cell disease was appealing to me. I majored in biochemistry in college, and so I learned all about sickle cell disease as a molecular disease.
As a molecular disease,
I thought if we just fixed that, and we have great drugs, right? 40 drugs in the pipeline, and we've got bone marrow transplant now, and we've got gene therapy.
Gene therapy,
Oh, if we just get that out there.
It'd be fine.
But it's not going to be fine.
It's not going to be fine.
So that's the problem. And so I think if our audience catches that and understands that, they will be in good stead. Everybody seemed to do very well on the biology part. The first part of the morning, 100% of people got most of those questions right. So we got across the fact that sickle cells are different from regular blood cells. We 100% of the people got right how the disease is transmitted.
That's good.
And everybody understood the types of pain, acute and chronic. Everybody got that right.
That's good.
And everybody understood that opioids can be used to treat sickle cell disease, and there are problems.
There are problems.
With opioids. They got the disease modifiers. They got all those down pat. So here's one that people did have trouble with. Dr. Sisler talked about children's death rates. And she made the point, and you missed it, that acute chest syndrome is now the leading cause of death in children with sickle cell disease. A lot of people got tripped up on stroke, which used to be
the leading cause of death.
And now what do we do to prevent stroke?
We give them penicillin.
And then we transfuse them, and then we keep them going. So they make it to adulthood. So infection and stroke have been replaced now. Not replaced, but they have been
reduced.
And the only thing left killing children still is acute chest syndrome.
Yeah.
So that one is an important thing to walk away. Another thing that people missed, people with severe abdominal pain, heartburn, nausea, and vomiting will most likely require which of the following? And the choices were gallbladder renewal, spleen renewal, and there's a couple of other choices. And the correct answer was gallbladder renewal. So let's go over that. Why do patients with sickle cell disease get gallstones? Because they have breakdown of the red blood cell from hemoglobin to bilirubin. Hemoglobin gets broken down and becomes bilirubin. And bilirubin can form crystals inside the gallbladder. And the gallbladder has to come out because it has gallstones
In it.
And so you have symptoms that might be like, I ate something wrong,
Yeah.
or I have gas, but it's in the right upper quadrant. That could be gallstones.
Could be gross.
So every time you eat, you get those symptoms. Why? Because the gallbladder squeezes down. That's called gallbladder colic.
Okay.
And you can get an infection in
From
your gallbladder. Cholecystitis, choledoco, I can't even say the right word, but it's gallbladder and gall bowel duct infection.
Infection. Okay.
Possibly could kill you. So better to get that thing out. And we take a lot of gallbladders out in patients with sickle cell disease.
Sickle cell disease.
Okay.
All right.
And I think that's just about it. We hope that you were able to benefit from yesterday's teaching and yesterday's review of the basics of sickle cell disease. And we will move on.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Have a good day.
You have a good day as well.